All right. We are live. William, how's it going?
It's going okay. Very
Good.
itchy today. Springtime has sprung.
Springtime has sprung. Yeah, so springtime in Scotland. Uh, not doesn't really feel like springtime over here in
Yeah.
the Midwest of the United States so much. Got kind of cold again, but
I mean, for me, it just means that daffodils have started to bloom. Makes me itchy, sneeze.
yeah, it hits me hard too. Those allergies will hit very hard very soon. Well, um, we are just getting set up, making sure everything's going out live to everybody. And it looks like
Looks like we're live on YouTube.
we are live on YouTube. We got a confirmation from our very own Equalized Digital and our very own Amber, who probably just switched her YouTube account from Equalized back to Amber, which I do all the time too. Uh, Very cool. So this is episode number 12. William, we've made it 12 episodes.
Can't believe it.
So changelog 12. This is a live stream where we go through and we talk about changes in the accessibility checker plugin. For anybody that is not aware, the accessibility checker plugin is an automated accessibility scanning plugin to help your WordPress website become and stay accessible. So, uh, we have a free plugin on you can get at our website or at wordpress.org. It's a very full featured scanning plugin where you could scan individual pages and posts, but we also provide a pro plugin as well where we'll allow you to extend out and scan custom post types, run a full site scan, and a handful of lovely add-ons. We have an audit history add-on to track your accessibility over time, a multi-site add-on to manage your accessibility checker license and stats at the multi-site network level, and an export add-on that allows you to export your accessibility issues to a CSV file. So today's theme is more control, less friction. This release is really about removing the little points of friction that slow people down when they're doing accessibility auditing and remediation. So excited about this one. These releases went out uh, last week, and if I'm right, the version numbers, it's accessibility checker version 1.39.0,
Correct.
and in pro it's version 1.21.0.
Yep.
Oh, I
Those are
got it.
both right.
All right, very good. I didn't have that written down in my notes off the top of my head. Live in accessibility checker daily. Got those releases stuck in my brain. Cool. So more control where it matters. Let's start with the first one here, William.
Yeah, so we have added some CSS modifier classes to our plugin for the new window warning rule. This has been, I think it was requested more than once. However, we didn't action on this until just recently. The modifier classes do two specific things. The first one is it hides the visible label and it prevents the tooltip from being displayed. Those are now options that you can apply to your window warning classes. The reason this was important, hiding either of them was important for two different reasons. The icon, first off, sometimes people just don't like it. That's one of the reasons. But the other main reason is that sometimes it does break layouts in certain situations. An icon appearing might break a line or something like that. So that can be quite complicated for people to just bulk apply the fix to their website and make sure everything looks just fine. So now there is a modifier class to not output the icon. The tooltip was a bit different. The main issue with the tooltip was in hover navigations. When you hover over the tooltip, you're no longer within the navigation, and some navigations act on that when you leave the navigation. Sometimes they close, and it's a bit of a pain. Ideally, they should handle the tooltip, but many of the navigations do not. I haven't shared my screen yet. I can share this screen. I have.
Oh, I
Or
have this.
do you have it up?
Is this helpful?
Yeah, this is the same markup I was going to test. So if you preview this on the front site, you can actually show.
So should we show the classes first? So
sure.
Just a little caveat here. I am running WordPress 7.0 beta something. So I'm on a unreleased version. That's why this code box looks a little different in 7.0. You actually can, have a preview and you can add CSS and JavaScript. So this looks a little different than what you may be seeing on your site. But you want to walk through this, William?
Yeah. So in this code section, we have a bunch of divs that contain links, essentially. Each link either has one of the modifier classes applied or does not. The purpose of the wrapper div is to show that you can actually apply those modifiers to a wrapper, and then it would target all of the links inside of that wrapper. So we have two modifier classes. We have edac-nww- no icon. And this is a pattern we followed. So edac at the beginning is equalized digital accessibility checker. This is for new window warning, and then there's the modifier at the end, which is no-icon. There is another modifier class, which is no-tooltip, edac-nww-no-tooltip. And these handle both the two new behaviors that we talked about. And as I said, you can apply this to the wrapper class, or you can apply it directly to the link. It functions in both cases. So if we have a look at the front end, we have the new window warning link. This is the default behavior at the top. So it has an icon and has a tooltip when you hover over it. The next link down has no icon, but still has the tooltip. The one after that, no tooltip, but has the icon. And then these last two links both have no icon and no tooltip. One of these has the classes directly applied to the link, and one has it applied to the wrapper class. And the reason it was important to target the wrapper class as well is you might want to put one of these modifier classes on an entire section on your website, such as your navigation or a hero block, a specific piece of content. You might want to have this applied everywhere inside that block. So you can do that. It's either on the link directly or on any of the pendant wrappers.
Yeah, and I'll note too that we did update the documentation for our opens in a new window fix.
Correct.
To include these modifier classes. If you're a current user, you can reference that documentation for those classes, and we'll also reference those in the post that goes out in regards to this changelog. But to speak a little bit about like what William was talking about in navigation menus. So like in navigation menus, you can kind of, with the JavaScript that's used to handle them, you can have the bubble up effect of event handling. And I'm going to preview this on our Equalized Digital website because this is actually something we ran into. When you have the new window warning in a navigation menu, there can be a bubble effect of those JavaScript events to where when the tooltip is initiated, we're doing the accessible thing and kind of trying to move focus to it. And what that does, it actually triggers those other JavaScript handlers that will actually think you've gone off of the menu, and then the menu just closes. So if I add that utility class not to show the tooltip here, now I can hover over this without the tooltip getting focus or without the navigation menu thinking that I've actually hovered off of it, because essentially I have, because that tooltip actually doesn't exist exactly in the same markup. It's a right, William.
That
It's
is
a
correct. It is a globalized element. It is one tooltip that appears regardless of which link you hover, and as such, it is external to all of the markup that lives here.
yeah.
So it is not technically part of the navigation menu as far as the accessibility tree goes, and it does cause issues with mobile navs and probably other hover effect elements, like maybe some sliders or anything else that requires your mouse to remain on the element might get thrown off by moving into a tooltip.
Yep.
And this isn't just a problem with our tooltip. This is just a custom tooltip implementation almost always has this issue.
Yep. And we can't account for how every navigation menu is coded, so this is a way to kind of circumvent those issues, and it just puts more control where it matters back in your hands to help you control uh, the output on the front end. Cool.
Yeah, and if anyone is listening and would like user-facing options to enable these globally, let us know, and that's something we're considering, but have not yet implemented.
Yeah, so we're also looking at too with all of our fixes, um, where you can have an active state of a fix, but it's not actively applied globally. Is that what you were referencing, William? Where you could have,
Correct.
yeah,
But I
you could,
was thinking that we would expose options where they could disable the icon globally as opposed to having to use the modifier classes everywhere.
sure,
Um,
sure.
However, what you're talking about is maybe a secret feature.
Yeah, secret. So like you can enable a fix, but the fix doesn't get applied globally, to where you could actually use these utility classes to apply the fixes on an individual basis. So just that takes kind of the control piece and ramps it up to 11 and gives you full control on how a fix is applied.
Yeah. But by default, what we will almost always do is we will have a link with an icon and a tooltip when the fix is enabled, but we will put control of those options in users' hands
Yep.
in the not too distant future, both in the additive method and the subtractive.
Perfect. So moving on, putting more control back in your hands. So in our last live stream, we went through and we previewed our new block editor sidebar, and that kind of brought to rise a few questions about what should a user be using. Should they be using that new sidebar? Should they be using the legacy meta box? In some cases, they have to use the meta box because they're not on a block enabled post type or post. So we wanted to, and if we wanted ourselves to be able to not see the meta box if we don't have to see the meta box. And so what we've done is we've added a new setting, and this was prompted by one of our members of our Facebook group. So if you are not a member of our Facebook group, we will put a link in the show notes for this, and jump over to our Facebook group and join, and you can ask us questions about the plugin and accessibility and anything in between. So we added a setting. I'll pull up my screen again. And let me go to accessibility checker settings.
It's this one at the very end, blockader box.
Yeah. So if you go to accessibility checker settings and you go to system settings at the very end, we've added a new setting called block editor meta box, and with a checkbox that says show accessibility checker meta box in the block editor. So you can enable that or disable that, and your meta box will show or hide based on that. But we went a little further, right, William?
Yes, so there is some default behavior here. If you already see the meta box, you have this plugin installed, we're not going to just immediately hide it. You are going to still see the meta box, and you will be able to come to the settings page, toggle this in, change that so that you don't have to see the meta box in the block editor if you don't want to. If you like the meta box, keep it. It's not going away. But I think most people will probably prefer the sidebar when they have the option.
Right.
So existing users will retain the meta box. They have to come here, toggle this in. New users will have this enabled by default, so they will only see the sidebar in the block editor. They will continue to see the classic meta box in classic editor. And if they want to restore it, they have to come to the settings and
yeah, this will actually be
check this.
disabled. Like, so
Correct.
if you're a new user, this will actually be disabled by default.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you download the plugin and put it on a new website, the meta box on block enabled pages will be disabled by default, but you can come here and turn it back on if that's your preference. If it's a classic editor page, then we will show you the meta box regardless of the setting. So let's show it in action. So I'm going to leave it toggled on, and I'll go to a post. I'm zoomed in. Let me zoom out so it doesn't look weird. I'll just edit the same post. So in recent versions, we have this separation now with the where the meta boxes live. And a neat little trick that William taught me that I didn't know was if you actually click on this bar with one click, it collapses.
I found it by accident.
And if you click it again, it opens. I was always clicking this and dragging it back and forth.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
That's how I discovered this feature.
So this is a block enabled theme. You have our meta box and you have our sidebar. But if I go and deselect the block editor meta box setting and then refresh the page, our meta box is gone. Of course, there's still, Yoast SEO still has theirs here, but now ours is gone, and you can close that, and you can just do your auditing and your remediating straight here from the sidebar with your content right next to it. And if the sidebar icon is how you initiate these, and sometimes it's hard to find if you're just on a regular post, we've actually added a little kind of helper panel. It's a panel.
It's a panel.
To open our panel up if you're just on the regular post edit panel.
So let me test you a bit here. What if you unpin this sidebar? How do you get it back?
You want to test me? So the ellipses. So if I go to the ellipses in the top toolbar, and then I go to accessibility checker, and I turn. Wait, hold on. How do you unpin it? Up here, right here.
Yeah.
So I unpin it. So I had to go to the sidebar. There's a little star to unpin it. So you're asking, how do I get to it? Well, I can just do this.
You can do that?
Yeah.
How do you get it back in the toolbar?
You pin it.
Yeah, you can. You can also go through the menu and do this as well, just for users that don't know.
You click the little star. So this is just a little sidebar that, if you don't know about sidebars in the block editor, you can actually, choose which ones you want to see. Like I can get rid of Yoast SEO from here. I thought I could. Hold on. Oh,
you have to go through the settings to turn off. The quickest way is to click the star icon.
Oh, yeah, that's right. See, this is a UX problem.
It is.
So I can get rid of Yoast. I can get rid of our accessibility checker, but we've kind of gone that extra mile to make sure it's always here for you in case you forget or you don't know to go to the ellipses menu. So cool. So that's kind of a simple feature that had a little bit of thought to it, and we're glad to get that out in the release. And one release from when we released the sidebar, the very next release had that setting. That was a request from a customer. All right, so continuing on with our theme of giving more control to the user, we have another issue that kind of came up through our support channels that that William worked on? You want to explain this one?
This was an issue that came up many times, actually. So a lot of websites have specific pages. So the first and the problem at the forefront here was some sites have logout URLs, and they are technically pages, but if you visit those pages, it logs you out. And due to the nature of the way we do our scan, we browse the website as a user would see it. And if you happen to hit that page in the full site scanner, it logs you out, and then you can't continue subsequent scan pages. So we needed a way to exclude specific pages. For that reason, some users have other problem pages that don't scan because they're filled with JavaScript issues, they're slow pages, or any number of other reasons why a page might not want to be scanned. There was no previous way to exclude them. Now there's no user exposed feature for this yet. This is only done via a filter. You pass any post ID you want to skip in the full site scanner, restart the scan, that post will get skipped. And when I say skipped, I mean it will not be scanned at all in the full site scanner. However, if you visit that page individually in the editor, you can still scan it. You can also scan it from the front end highlighter. So this does not mean you won't get results for the page. It just means it won't be scanned in the full site scanner.
Yeah. So let's do a little show and tell. Well, you did the tell. Let's do the show. So, like William said, this is not currently an exposed setting, but we are planning to create a setting for this because we are finding it quite valuable for our own testing and for clients troubleshooting when there are issues with scanning certain pages. So right now it's a filter. We've documented this in our documentation, correct, William?
The documentation article for this one is yet to be published. But
Okay. So we will be updating our documentation.
I know, I stand corrected. It is published.
Oh,
so
perfect.
You can find this in our docs.
Yeah.
With basically this exact example.
Right. So it's just a simple filter to filter in post IDs on the ones that you don't want to be scanned. So you can see here, I've actually created a little utility plugin and the only thing that exists inside this plugin is the filter itself. So it's just edact p for pro _ exclude _ post _ IDs. And then we catch the excludes ID and we pass in our IDs. This can be an array of IDs. Right now, I only have one ID here.
So I will say this must be an array of IDs if you want it to actually exclude a post. It cannot be a string ID. If you pass a string here, it does not break because there is error handling, but it won't do what you think. So you do have to pass an array of integer numbers for the post ID.
Right. So let's see what this looks like when I go to a full site scan. So William did actually give the user feedback in the UI when they have excluded IDs. So now when you go to accessibility checker full site scan, there's a check summary. And this is going to show you, what's going to be scanned. I got 644 posts to be checked. 11 pages will be checked. Archive pages will not be checked because I don't have that enabled. And now we have this new one here. It says one specific post ID is set to be excluded from check via the excludes filter. And then it shows the IDs of the posts that are to be excluded. So we're kind of letting you know, hey, you've done this, and we did this so you have assurance that it's working, and two, if you forget to remove it for some reason, like if I have this this post and I actually do want to scan, if I have this plugin, this custom little plugin, and I do actually want to scan this page because I've resolved why it wasn't scanning, this will be like, oh, I need to disable that plugin, and then I can scan it and it goes away.
I will also call out here that the numbers above this that say how many posts or pages to be scanned does reflect the excluded post IDs. So if you were to remove this filter, I believe that number of pages goes up by 1.
Okay, so I'll disable the utility plugin.
It may be a post. I can't remember what that ID is, but these numbers should go up by 1.
It was a page.
And that's the same number, so I broke that.
Is it?
I think it is. Let me take a note of that.
Activate. Do you have to reinitiate?
You shouldn't have to reinitiate the scan. That's I've broken that somehow in the release build.
You can definitely see that when I disable the plugin, the filter message goes away, and then if I re-enable it, it returns. So William will make a note to update this count the way he described it. Anything else on excluding post IDs from the full site scan?
Nothing else on this one. Do you have a broken page to show someone though? Because we do have another feature on this page. I'd
have to, yeah. We will get to that. That's under a different section, but so we do have a new full site scanning feature that William is so excited to talk about that he's trying to jump ahead, but we're going to hold off and we're going to go over that.
Makes sense to talk about it here.
I know.
Let's talk about your stuff, the UX.
Well, we could do it. Let's jump down. So we could jump into our pro scaling and accessibility scanning. So since we're talking about the full site scanner, let's talk about a couple of improvements we've made. While I grab the little code snippet we have to generate a failed scan, why don't you explain some of the performance improvements that went into this release?
Yes. So the full site scanner we have in this is really quite query intensive. To get some of these numbers and to generate the list of IDs we want to scan requires us effectively looking at every post and an awful lot of the post metadata for all of those posts to generate the full list. We were gathering that information with potentially 3 or 4, I think it was 4 individual separate queries, each that were resulting in very similar post ID lists. So what I did was I made one of the queries slightly more intensive to gather all of that information. And once all that information is gathered, then we process it in the place where the other queries were. So we don't need to query the database more than one time, other than to do additional metadata lookups if required later on as part of the scan. But when the scan starts, it should be almost 3 times faster at generating the ID list. And for some sites, small sites like a site of this size, the time it takes to generate that ID list is really quite small. But for a site that might have 50,000 pages and posts to scan, that can take 15 or more seconds to perform each of those queries. So now it only takes one of those times, and the rest of it is processed in PHP.
Yeah, I mean, performance improvements on things like a scanner of sorts like this definitely will net the greatest benefits at scale, right?
Yes. The bigger your site, the quicker that query has become for you, or the more time you have saved. And this is also in line with the previous performance improvements we made. On very large sites, it might be 7 times faster due to those previous improvements. But on a small site, it isn't directly measurable how fast those queries are. However, it is significantly more efficient, even if the time doesn't add up on a small site.
Yeah. We got a request to show our pretty little faces while we do the screen share. I didn't realize the screen share was up by itself for so long.
Sneeze.
So we are on camera, William. Do not pick your nose. that is just a little performance improvement, and we continue are always trying to do performance improvements to the full site scanner. I think I can't underestimate how advanced this full site scanner is and how complex it is, and how we are continually always working to refine it, to make it work smoother, to make it work faster, and to make it handle any kind of edge case we run into, because we run into a lot of them when we're scanning real websites, right?
Yeah, I also think it's real nice that we have this change log where we can tell people about those changes, because that change is entirely invisible. Users would just, users that couldn't start their scan easily before will be able to start their scan and they'll be able to see a benefit. But the majority of users actually don't have a problem starting their scan. Their sites are small to medium sized and they didn't need this improvement, but they got it anyway.
Yep, totally. Cool. So let's move on to the next goodie, and that is being able to clear out failed scans. So I've got a code snippet here so we can generate a failed page scan. So while I do this, can you explain what a failed page scan is anyway?
So there are usually three different scenarios where a page might fail to scan. The first one is the page just fails to load, times out. There's some issue with that. The other issue might be there's a lot of JavaScript errors on the page. It breaks our scanner because of one of those errors. We can't scan the page. The third issue is, there's potentially a redirect or something in the way of our scanner actually being run. So there's a few reasons why a page might fail to scan. The most common reason is the page doesn't load quick enough. But there is a filter to increase that time if anyone needs it. But that is the most common reason for a scan fail, is a page timeout, because we have to load the entire page to see it the way a user would see it.
And a page timeout, in the sense that you're speaking, is not like a server timeout. This is our own imposed timeout, right?
Correct. So we will only wait 15 seconds. If the page hasn't fully loaded in that 15 seconds, we will move on. And that is to just prevent the scan being infinitely blocked on a page that might never hit its load event. And for anyone who's a developer, the load event is a specific event in the page loading order in a browser. And that is what we trigger our scan on, the load event, which is effectively when the entire page is fully rendered. As much of the things have happened on the page that would happen for a normal user, and then we scan it so that we see what users are going to see.
Right. So we take those failures, and I put those in quotes, and we collect them and we hold them, and then we expose them to you at the end of your scan. Or the scan will refresh on an interval, so they may pop up before the end of the scan. And we expose those to you so you can troubleshoot why that page failed. A lot of times, in my own experience, if I visit that page and just let it scan inside the editor at an individual level, it scans, and then the failure goes away. Was that a new feature that it goes away?
That is a new feature. Previously, the list would be static and saved until you start a fresh scan. Now, if you successfully scan the page, either through the front end highlighter or by visiting it in the editor, once it successfully scans, it will be removed from the fails list.
Yeah, cool. So I have a little code snippet that William wrote here. This will actually just hit the endpoint here and trigger a failure.
You have to run this while in the middle of the scan.
Oh, it has to be running? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Let me run accessibility. Okay, so we are running a scan. And I've got quite a few posts, so
this is going to take a while, but you don't need to wait till the scan completes. You can fail this post now and reload this page.
Okay, cool. So I will trigger the script.
Oh, what happened? I can't read that.
403 forbidden.
Is the URL correct there? I can't read it. You don't need to read it out.
It should be correct. wp-json/accessibility-checker-version1- or /post-scan-results.
Yeah, that is correct. Is this post ID a real post ID?
It was at one point. Let's go find us a post ID. Hold on. 12900.
Oh, the fact that that's not a real post ID is the reason why the counts didn't update.
Oh, well, let's test that. That's a good catch. So I'm going to, okay, there we go. I got the failure. It returned back a success in the console log. So now I'm going to refresh. So now I have a failure on an actual existing post ID. So these are sandbox sites, local sites that we use for testing, and William and I bang on these things really hard, and we delete posts and we create posts. That's why that post ID didn't exist. So now I'm using an actual post ID. So I have a scan failure. You can open this up, and this has been here for a long time, but we have updated this now. So
yeah, so there is 3 things new here. First off, you can see there's an action button, clear, on the individual item. There's also a clear all button after the entire list. The clear all button will wipe all of these failures in one go. The individual action will clear just one post as you go. I did also add a template column here. A customer told me that this would be quite useful for them to know whether a specific template was causing their failures or not. So there is now the template column that can be referenced. And in my experience, it is actually quite common that someone has a slow template causing a lot of these timeouts. So this helps them identify that now. And if you want to pick any one of these clear buttons and just click them, it will go away. Issue gone. And if you refresh the page, the accordion won't show again. It is resolved. And you can't see it because you're zoomed in, but there was an admin notification that appears and it gets read out by the screen reader.
Yeah, let me grab that snippet again, because I want to show that post ID was 12900. All right, so now I have the failure again. So one cool feature, like I said, a lot of times when a page fails in the full site scan, it could be that the scanner's running too fast, and for running too fast for your server resources. And we do have a setting where you can slow that down to prevent these. And but what I found is if you just go to the page, it'll scan it. So if I open up this post ID, it automatically scans, and then if I refresh, that now clears out that issue, whereas before it persisted. So I can kind of in real time fix some of my failures while the scan's running.
That list does stay present once the scan completes, so you can work through that list after the scan as well.
Right.
And it is almost always going to scan when you visit the page in the editor.
Yep. So let me stop this scan real quick, and we're going to jump all the way back, and we're going to go back to the excluding IDs for just a moment to check and see if the count is actually functioning correctly when an actual post ID is used. So we got 644 posts and 11 pages. If I open this plugin and I update this post ID to 12900, which is in a real post ID, I go back to full site scan and I refresh. Oh, got to go to plugins and enable this plugin. And now I have 643. So we're down 1. So I excluded it and the count actually went down.
I was worried there for a second.
No. You did good.
Works as intended. Maybe as an additional verification layer, I should verify that these IDs do exist prior to showing them.
Cool. So that's the full site scanner. All the lovely improvements. And next, we've added a new fix. So if you're not aware already, Accessibility Checker comes with a whole list of fixes that you can use to programmatically fix accessibility issues on your website with one click, or 2 or 3. It depends. But so you can see all of our fixes here on this page. I'll zoom in a little bit. So we've got several fixes to do to cover a lot of areas, but we've added a new one. And this one is the empty search handling. Force WordPress to show a search results page when a search is submitted with an empty query. So the way that this works out of the box, and this is actually quite interesting one, and this is a fix that's also in Joe Dawson's WP accessibility plugin, and we pulled this over because I think there was actually a client need for this. The clients that was already using our plugin but wanted to actually use this as well. And so we pulled it over, made some modifications. We submitted the modifications back to Joe's plugin so that both plugins now have parity of sorts and are improved. So let me take a look at a search page. So if I go to search, so if you don't know, you can just throw in a query parameter and search for something, like tests. I write test in this website a million times, so I'll get a bunch of posts. So, and when I actually pass through a value on that query parameter, I get the post that I should get. But what happens by default in WordPress is that if you pass in an empty value, you get search results for, and it says not, it's just blank, and then I think it returns all the
it returns
posts.
effectively everything. The reason this number is different to the number in the back end is because it actually is literally searching for no space characters. So if there's like an empty return space in a post or whatever, but this is an interesting, generally unseen accessibility issue for people with any kind of cognitive disabilities, where this doesn't really make any sense. And this really doesn't make a lot of sense for me either. But for someone who might not fully get what's going on here, this could be incredibly confusing.
Yeah, for somebody that can't see what's going on. Yeah. Because essentially you're passing nothing, but you're getting a bunch of results. And so it's like, why? So now we can force an error on empty search results by toggling this setting and hitting save. So now when I go back to the site and I search for an empty string, I don't get any posts, and we get a message. Sorry, but nothing matches your search terms. Please try again with some different keywords. So we're forcing an error. And on this theme, there's a search box for you to search a different keyword. So this just cleans it up a little bit. It gives context to what's going on. Like if nothing is sent over, then nothing should be shown.
I also think this is one of these fixes that has no negative. That this should just be how core behaves. WordPress core. I actually think everyone can just enable this, and if they have a search box on their website, they might help some users for free. This is a free fix. Nothing. I mean, it's also in the free plugin, but this is an easy win.
Yep, totally. So that is our new fix. We're always thinking about and prototyping new fixes that we have coming down the line, and we're doing everything we can to not just service accessibility issues in your website, but also be there to help you fix those right away, and to make your website accessibility and to make those issue counts go down. Cool. So the next thing is, if you were in our last live stream or watched our last live stream after the fact, we did kind of a big UI update on the sidebar, which we spoke about a minute ago. So we have a new sidebar, but that new sidebar comes with a new UI. We updated our meta box, which I think I have disabled right now. Let me turn it back on. Go to settings, show meta box. So we have our new sidebar, which our sidebar kind of pushed us to think about the UI and the user experience and what it should look like, and a little bit how it can dovetail into WordPress a little more seamlessly, and to kind of just modernize the look of Accessibility Checker, because Accessibility Checker is 5 years old. And when you're 5 years old, it's time to start thinking about how you look and updating your appearance. So
I must have missed that one when I turned 5.
that's right. So we changed with the sidebar, and then we kind of mirrored that over to the meta box inside the free plugin. And what we've done in this update is we've taken that a step further and started translating the terminology and the UI elements into the rest of the Pro plugin. So let's take a look at that. The first place where you'll notice it is on, if you're running a Accessibility Checker Pro. Actually, this is in free too, but there's more UI here to look at. If you're in Pro, you get some more stats. So we've updated our dashboard widget with just some of the new colors. We actually we decided to inherit the user's color palette settings. And in WordPress 7.0, it's this bright blue, but you can change it if it doesn't meet color contrast. It's kind of on you as a user, because you can change this to something that does have contrast.
I actually got a screenshot from a customer on support who had the red theme on. It was interesting to see the full site scan with the red.
Yeah. I'll demo that just for fun here in a minute. But so we updated this with some colors and just some layout changes, and we brought in our iconography, and we brought in our new terminology. We don't call things errors anymore. We call them problems. We don't call them warnings anymore. We call issues that need review. And we've just kind of cleaned up the UI a bit here, and using core buttons instead of our own buttons, and adding opens a new window indicators throughout this. So this is just kind of a design cleanup, and just to bring it in alignment with the free plugin. The next place is the welcome screen. So the welcome screen, we kind of brought over the same thing. We removed the heavy background colors and brought in our iconography and our terminology, and kind of the same color into the welcome page. I don't think there's anything major on here other than just a design change, and some button changes, a few layout, just kind of padding things to clean this up a little bit on the welcome page. And then you'll notice as you go through open issues, you'll see we've brought in the new icons on the initial open issues page that shows all of the issues on the website. And we brought in the terminology. We've updated the severity label here to match the modified severity label we used in the sidebar. But other than that, this kind of remains the same. If you go into an issue, we've kind of just brought that over as well, the same kind of iconography and terminology, and updated those throughout the interface, and tried not to be obtrusive or modify this too much with this first pass. So in the sidebar, it doesn't sit, you can see dismissed issues here. It doesn't say ignored anymore. We have gone away from using the word ignore. and in favor of dismiss, because we don't want you to ignore accessibility issues. You can dismiss them if you have confirmed they are in fact not issues. And then global ignores is now global dismissals. And so just updating all of that kind of terminology throughout the plugin. If I go to the full site scanner, which we've been looking at already for quite some time on this live stream, but there a lot changed here, but it doesn't look like a lot changed here because we were using kind of our really own out of the box buttons and things like that, and we have stripped out those custom button styles in favor of just adopting what's in core, the core button styles. And this will be more apparent too once WordPress 7.0 comes out here in a couple weeks. So I've got a blue button here now, which is just your core button. When I start a scan, we've updated these buttons, and kind of something I've been wanting to do for a while that I haven't is our scanner will run. And, of course, if you got a lot of pages, it doesn't look like the bar's loading very fast. But I wanted to give the impression that it's doing something, because it is doing something. Like if I inspect the page and I go to the network tab, you can see that our scanner is doing something. You can tell it's very active. It's pulling up a page, it's scanning, it's sending the results back, it's closing that and redoing that over and over again. So I wanted to add these stripes in, what they call them, candy stripes, I think
so. And
I wanted to give a little bit of movement to show kind of, hey, even though the bar only goes horizontally every page scan completion, that also to give some movement in between those movements, that hey, it's doing something, and it kind of just looks kind of fun. But to what William was saying about the color palette, so I don't know, you want me to go to like a really ugly
any
one?
of these is quite different. The one I seen was this one, the red one,
Sunshine. So now, if you need in the editor, if you need to have a certain level of color contrast, I would probably stick with the default. But so I've switched the theme. If I refresh the page, then our scanner adopts whatever you've chosen as your profile color. Everything changes. We're just doing what we can to make the plugin kind of fit in with the core a little more. And you can see it here. You can see it on the dashboard, like it brings in the theme colors. So
I think I might be in the minority of users here, but I actually like my plugins to look like WordPress. A lot of plugins try and look quite different, and it's quite obtuse to me when I'm browsing the dashboard that things look all kinds of different ways depending on what page you're on. So I really like this change. Everything in our plugin should look like WordPress because it is inside WordPress. That's something I believe. Not every plugin believes it, but now we do.
Yeah. So I prefer the default theme, and the default theme is changing with WordPress 7.0. So it looks a little bit different. Is the current one fresh? Is that what the current one is?
Yes. It's called default, I think, in 6.9. It's been renamed to fresh in 7.0.
There's a new default, yeah. So if I go back to the default, then here we go. So that is some of the UI stuff that we have gone through and cleaned up. In doing that, anytime you go into software and you start messing with things, you start finding other things. We updated, these labels here are translatable now. Like you find things that weren't translated, and you fix the accessibility on them, and you fix the translated, make them translatable, and we found several areas throughout the plugin in that we did translation improvements on, and we have our plugin translated into 32 languages, something like that.
I think it's 35 now.
Oh, is it up to 35? And we're continually making improvements to make sure everything is as translatable as possible. So, and we did some accessibility fixes as far as UI in the settings panel. We did find a couple orphaned labels, and we went through and fixed those and attached those to the proper settings so that they read out properly for screen readers. And this is just us practicing what we preach, finding accessibility issues in our own plugin and fixing them. So I think that's kind of the UI improvements that we've done. I think we have one last thing to talk about, William. It's kind of our smarter detection and updates to our missing transcript.
Yeah, so the missing transcript check we have, loosely the way it works is it searches around about a video to try and find any reference to a transcript or any link that might be to a transcript to tell you there's a video on this page. It doesn't have a transcript. It is a AAA requirement to provide transcripts for video. Is it AA? No, it is a AAA requirement. So it is a needs warning in our plugin, or needs review, so that so users look to check for it. And previously, we have made a lot of enhancements to that rule over time about how it detects the transcripts. But something that interesting came in recently is we look for nearby words to say that there's a transcript. And nearby is relative. It could be visually very close, but in the content of the page, the HTML markup actually be relatively quite far away. And that is what we discovered with a specific format of Beaver Builder video inputs. It could be, I think it was 4 levels away in terms of DOM depth, which our check just was considering too far. And as such, we actually increased the limit. So it will now look 5 levels of DOM depth away to try and find the transcript, which is really quite far in terms of the DOM, but as we recently found, is actually really quite close visually in certain builders. Beaver Builder was where we discovered this at first, but I did also figure out that this is a problem in certain Elementor permutations of videos as well. So now the missing transcript video will search further to try and discover the transcript before it determines it's just too far away. And that does fix a specific support issue for one customer, but I presume anyone who used Beaver Builder may have ran into this and we didn't know, right? Because we'd never tested that specific format of connecting the video with the transcript.
Yeah. So it's pesky page builders, right?
Yeah. We get a bit better every time. Someone reports an issue, we fix it. Actually, just this morning, fixed an issue with Cadence. And a pro fix for the add-in file type and size. Cadence also has a similar issue where the link is too far away from the content if it's an overlay link. So that will also be fixed in the next release, hopefully.
Yeah, so that's, we're always trying to improve the rules, and our users giving us feedback helps us have context and helps us test a whole world of page builders and themes and things like that we don't always have at our disposal.
And a lot of these page builders change so frequently that, this issue with the add file or this Beaver Builder issue might not have existed a year ago, and it does now, and it should be resolved forever, hopefully, fingers crossed. But wait and see if Beaver Builder change how they output their video. I am hopeful they change it so that you can have your transcripts closer in the DOM.
Yeah.
We will see.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's just, that's how I think all these things sum up how we're trying to give you more control where it matters, and We're giving you the UI fixes and visual improvements, the smarter detection, which we just talked about, and the pro scanning functionality and performance improvements that we've made in these releases. And it's just us trying to improve our software to make it as usable and helpful to our users as possible. We have a few minutes left. Well, we're a few minutes over, but we can go as long as we want. Do we want to tease what's next?
Do you have anything ready to tease?
I don't want to show it, but do we want to talk about it?
Yeah, we can. I mean, I don't know what one you're talking about because we have quite a number of things in the
That's
pipeline.
right. We got a lot of things in the. So we have teased this before, and I want to bring it up again because it's it's kind of the thing that we're working on pushing through. But our email reports will be launching very soon, hopefully next release or maybe the one after, depending on how we do this. There's some complexities around generating email reports because we now will have a connection between accessibility checker and the my.equalize digital website. If you're not familiar with what my.equalizedigital.com is, it's our dashboard for any of our customers that have either downloaded a free accessibility checker plugin or one of our premium plugins, bought a course, affiliates. So we have a dashboard. So our email reports are going to let you attach your free or your paid plugin. If you have a paid plugin, it's already attached to the dashboard. But we now will let free customers attach and to the dashboard, and then it will get audit summaries, and then it will process those and send them to you and right into your inbox and show you any improvement or regression in your accessibility from week to week.
I'm looking forward to getting this feature out.
Yes.
I don't want to say done. I think there's still some work, some improvements there, but I would love to get this actually released. And this is a really big change. The ability for free plugin users to connect to MyDot, get the email reports is a really big change. Previously, only paid customers would have any functionality inside of the dashboard. Free customers will too. That's a huge leap forward. We're not just building these things for the people that pay us. We're building them for everyone. That's the point. Accessibility is for all users.
Man, couldn't have said better myself, William. I think
I'm going to need to write that one down.
That's right. Write it down. That's a tweetable moment right there.
Yeah.
We still call them tweets. That's a postable moment right there.
Yeah.
So, no, perfectly. Very well said. And I think that sums it all up. And I think with that, we're going to call this into our live stream. We thank anybody that watches here live with us or anybody watching later to go check out Accessibility Checker free. If you like it already, or if you like it after using it, please give us a 5-star review on WordPress.org. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your support, and we look forward to bringing new features to you in the next live stream. See ya.